Hello, I know you weren't expecting to see me so early, were you? I'm Adrian, welcome to Rabona TV, and we're testing things out, man. On my live stream, I asked the boys and girls if they'd be open to me releasing my reviews for the UCL matches the day after they happen, so it would be 2 matches as opposed to waiting for Thursday to come around for the Champions League reviews, because you know the Tuesday matches are slightly stale by then. So here we are. If people hate the separate videos, we'll go back to looking at all 4 matches in one video on Thursdays, but I figured this would give me more room to go more in depth with each match. So let's get started. Yes, this match had the potential to be a trap game for City. Potential is all it had, really, as the better team came out on top, and for the second time in this Champions League season, Sporting have conceded 5 goals at home. The last time, of course, being when they faced Ajax. I can't speak though. Benfica plays Ajax soon, and I mean, that could get ugly also. There's potential for that. Sporting are a young, green team, and no, that's not analysis on the color of their kits. They are a young side for the most part, with a young manager who, for all of his great achievements in his fledgling career, is still ultimately a manager who has been in his job since 2020 at the senior level. The end of 2019, if we're being precise. Again, he's accomplished amazing things in that short time frame. But this is Manchester City that he's up against. This is 14 years of squad building, of building a winning culture, of signing some of the brightest talents in Europe with one of the biggest budgets in Europe, and 6 years of one of the best managers in the history of the game at the helm. I mean, you can't expect another outcome, right? There's always a chance that it can go in another direction. Of course, that's how football works. That's why we enjoy football. There's always a chance. But if you were to replay this match 10 times, City would probably win it 9 times out of 10. Okay, fine. I'll say 8 times out of 10, just to be nice. And that's just how it is with City and most of the teams that they come across, especially with the form that they've been in this season. And I mean, add in a core of Seychelles boys, that's Benfica's academy for those who are unfamiliar. There was always going to be some added fuel to the fire, added motivation for guys like Bernardo Silva, Ruben Dias, João Cancelo, and even Ederson, I guess you could say. Plus, when you look at all the other talents, Phil Foden, Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez, an absolute trashing was always going to be a possibility for Sporting. And it started early for them, didn't it? In the 7th minute. And the goal, like many, came from that very, very dangerous City left side of Cancelo, Silva, and Sterling. Mahrez converting the cutback. 10 minutes later, Bernardo Silva scored a dream goal against Sporting. A dream goal for him, that is. But a beauty. A volley that smashed off of the crossbar and in. With his added celebration, that little punching motion, you could see how much it meant to him. He was really sticking the knife in for the Sporting supporters. I mean, the wing play from City was just too much for Sporting to handle, while their center backs weren't as clean as they typically are. The failed clearance for Sporting's third, yes, great work from Mahrez on the right, but Coates, Inacio, etc., getting tangled up in each other there, didn't cover themselves in glory, really. I mean, the way that first half played out was truly depressing in some ways. I mean, I love a little Schadenfreude, but the silence of the Alvalade as City passed it around Sporting for another easily worked goal, a second for Bernardo Silva. I mean, the commentator remarked that the Sporting supporters had even given up on booing the former Benfica players in Ruben Dias and Bernardo Silva. Just some half-hearted whistles when Bernardo made it 4 right before halftime. I mean, the guy had a goal called back in the second half. Imagine if he, of all people, got a hat trick against Sporting. Ay, ay, ay. Knife twisted. In the end, it was 5. Raheem Sterling getting a goal from a Bernardo Silva assist. Again, the left side was where City concentrated many attacks, as the technical ability of João Cancelo, Sterling, and Bernardo was too much for the very young Gonçalo Inácio and the City loanee Pedro Porro. Of course, he was there too. Utter domination from City, 63% possession, though that's nothing too new as they like to dominate the ball. Not a single shot on target for Sporting from 3 attempts. I mean, this tie is over for them, unfortunately. Unfortunate depending who you ask. This match was a little bit weird, wasn't it? Of course, whenever you come into a match expecting goals, you've already let yourself down most of the time. But that said, I still got a lot of joy out of this one. The general theme of the match, bar maybe a 10-minute period in the first half, was PSG dominating possession, quick interplay around the edge of the Real Madrid box, from Verratti, Messi, Mbappé, and the like, and Real Madrid sitting deep, really deep. At the beginning, they had 2 banks of 4, but as the match went on, the common move that they often do of having Casemiro split the center backs while Madrid were defending became more and more frequent as they tried to limit PSG passing their way through the middle to force them to the outside. How effective was that? I mean, The only issue with that, or the benefit for PSG, if you want to look at it from that perspective, is that we then could see Carvajal isolated up against Mbappé, who was in fantastic form on the night, or alternatively on the other side of the pitch, Hakimi was joining in on the attack to overload that right side alongside Di Maria, and Messi would also tend to float over to that side as well. On the left, Mbappé was a one-man wrecking crew because Nuno Mendes wasn't joining him that much, and it was still very effective. There were times in the first half that we can look back on as sort of foreshadowing for the winner that Mbappé would later convert, as he had a couple of dribbles in that first half where he tried to exploit the space between Militão and Carvajal. Later, of course, he split the space between Militão and Vasquez, but whatever. I think what was really disappointing about this match from Real Madrid's perspective is just how deep they sat. Now, of course, part of that is due to how well PSG were playing as far as their possession went, but the way Real were outnumbered everywhere has got to be worrying for Real supporters. Everywhere on the pitch, in defense and in the attack, it was a common occurrence to see 2 PSG players for every Real Madrid player. You guys know that I haven't really pulled any punches with this PSG side, but the way Pochettino set them up in this game, they had a numerical advantage all over the park. I think where it was the most obvious was whenever Real Madrid tried to attack. That's when it became so obvious that they were outnumbered. Every Real Madrid player looked completely isolated, and as you can see here, Benzema was forced so deep, while Vinicius was in no man's land, waiting for a diagonal ball in behind to run onto, but it never came. How many times did we see Real try to attack only for it to putter out quickly because they couldn't get men up the pitch fast enough and would be completely outnumbered as Paredes and Danilo joined the defenders for another numerical advantage. 6v3 basically, snuff it out, light work, huge disconnect between the attack for Real Madrid and their defense. Their transition game was brutal. Then in the attack, PSG's shape looked like a 4-3-1-2 with Messi almost playing as a cam. Some will call it a false 9, of course. But Verratti, my word, how good was Verratti? We all have been robbed of seeing more of this guy due to his incessant injuries. It truly is a shame because when he's healthy and in form, there's not many players that can match his level of control and intelligence on the ball. And I mean, Neymar has played with great midfielders throughout his career, and he had this to say about Verratti. Quote, "I knew Verratti was an excellent player, but I didn't know he was so spectacular, a genius, one of the best midfielders I've played with, along with Xavi and Iniesta." It was another one of those nights where he justifiably got his plaudits, and while I think even Messi's staunchest supporters will admit that this was nowhere near his best, I think Messi still had a pretty decent night, effective night at least. He was second only to Verratti as far as key passes go. Yes, he missed that penalty, but he also had the most successful dribbles on the night. Not a memorable match, but I've seen worse. And hey, speaking of passing, you can see how Real Madrid were dominated in possession and how their only way out was the long ball. The short passing stats are dominated by PSG, while Real Madrid were playing long bomb all game. It was their only hope to break out of that PSG press, but like I said earlier, Vinicius was so far up the pitch that he basically excommunicated himself, while Benzema was stuck in Real Madrid's own midfield far too often. Asensio, man, was lost, constantly tucking inside, not spreading PSG's backline at all. I mean, Nuno Mendes basically had a free pass. So yeah, a brilliant goal from Mbappé was ultimately the difference on the night, where PSG could have had a couple more if not for Thibaut Courtois. Still all to play for though, I guess. 1-0. I think this game was also a good discussion point for the away goals rule getting taken away. Of course, we'll never know how this would have played out alternatively had the away goals rule still been there. Maybe the exact same, or maybe PSG would have played a less open game had the away goals rule been in place, just with that threat of away goal. Something tells me that it would have played out the same, just the way they smothered Real Madrid both in the attack and defense, but it's still an interesting talking point. And that's it from me. No more talking points from me. A big thank you to all of you who stuck around during the live stream and who made it this far into the video. You're very much appreciated. And hey, if you're new and you enjoyed this, consider subscribing and get back here for another talk tomorrow. Oh, and hit the bell, by the way. So many of you have been talking about how you aren't getting notified when I upload, so just check to see if you have notifications on. All right? Thanks, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.